Now, I agree with him on the airlines that we're going to have to, the equity portion of these companies is going to have to take into account that there is a huge stop in the business and that they're going to have to raise money either through levering up or by issuing equity, and that these companies are likely going to come out of this very different in terms of the equity holders and what the equity structure and share structure looks like than they did going into it. But I don't necessarily agree with his assertion that less people are going to fly. I think we could see a relatively V-shaped recovery in flying probably by like Q1 2021 would be my guess. And you can come back and you can cite this and tell me that I was wrong or tell me that I was right when we get there. But that would be my guess for a couple of reasons. One is I think there's a small chance we're overreacting about the whole coronavirus thing, so we'll have to see what history tells us once we get ubiquitous antibody testing. Two is everybody staying at home is giving everybody intense wanderlust. I know that because I have it. There's nothing I want to do more right now than get on a fucking airplane and fly somewhere. I've been looking at the same shit for several months now. I mean, usually I'm good for at least once a month. I'll go, and if it's 2 days, 3 days, I'll go somewhere, whatever. Just get the fuck out of the house and move around. And I think everybody else is going to be very similarly situated. So let's take that bet, me versus Warren Buffett. I think we could see a better recovery in airlines than he predicts. Now, what's wonderful about that is I'm not looking at what Warren Buffett does and I'm saying, oh, he's got to be right. Because again, reminder, he's not always right. So CNBC taking their entire cues on what they're doing from what Warren Buffett says, and that's what it was. I mean, if you watch CNBC talking about the meeting and reporting on what he said, it was a love fest, a Warren Buffett love fest. And I understand he's a good investor, okay? I get it. He's made a shitload of money for himself. And really, I respect the job that he did when he first started for those first couple decades because we had sound money. We didn't have massive QE. But would Buffett be Buffett if the last 30 or 40 years didn't happen the way that they happen? If Greenspan doesn't come in, if Bernanke doesn't come in, would Buffett still be Buffett? I don't know. But to roll out the red carpet for him and talk about him like he's some fucking religious figure and that everything he says has to be gospel and everything he says has to be right, I think is ridiculous. I do. I think it's just insane. And I think that people watching the financial media should probably understand, okay? Do understand that these people are not getting their thoughts on their own. So if Kramer and Wapner and whoever else can be swayed by what Buffett says, all right, if you had came to me 2 weeks ago and asked me what I thought about the recovery in airlines, I would have given you the same answer I just gave you now. Nothing would have changed because I saw Warren Buffett say this, that, or the other. Maybe he would have brought up a good point that would have changed me, but I watched what he said. There was nothing there that changed my thesis. But after he speaks, it's like fucking Jesus came down from the heavens with the Ark of the Covenant and added an 11th commandment. Thou shalt not invest in airlines. You know, it's like he's been right a lot, but he's fucking 90, okay? He's 90. I'm not saying he's not spry. I'm not saying he's not one of the best investors of all time. I'm not saying any of that shit. I'm just saying he's 90, all right? He's got a team around him, probably younger, probably a little bit more spry. Part of that meeting was fucking depressing to listen to. I'm not going to lie to you. He didn't sound really enthralled. He didn't sound enthusiastic. He didn't sound really awake for some of it. And this is not an ageism thing, all right? It's just you're not going to be able to stay on the forefront, on the edge of the market at some point. I don't know what it is for him. 92, 94, 106. I hope he lives to be 200 years old. I really do. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. All I'm saying is you get a little bit older, you're getting in your 90s, you're getting there. You know what I mean? The guy hasn't sent a text message. I think he still uses a flip phone. It's like, all right, at some point, the evolution of business is going to start to leave this guy behind. I don't know where. And I don't know why, but at some point, and it'll happen to all of us. I'm not just talking shit about Warren Buffett. that shit'll happen to me too. Maybe it's already happened. Maybe I'm just clueless and I'll never get it. But at some point, the evolution of monetary policy, which is changing really exponentially now over the last 30 or 40 years since he's been investing, and the evolution of business, they're going to leave this dude behind. And I don't know who makes the final call at the end of the day. I imagine it's him or Munger or whatever. But Munger's up there too. And I wish Buffett well. I really do. This is not a talk shit on Buffett-a-thon. But what it really is a reality check for a lot of people. It should be. All right? I get he's amazing. And a perfect example, again, is about a month ago when this whole shit started. Coronavirus started and the market started crashing. And Josh Brown put on Twitter, Warren Buffett's on with Becky Quick today. Is there anybody you'd rather hear from with the market going down than Warren Buffett? And I'm thinking yeah. There's a lot of people I'd rather hear from. I know what Warren Buffett's going to say. I know where Warren Buffett's, Warren Buffett exists, as somebody was defending him to me on Twitter the other day. You got to understand, this is the economy that we work in. This is the system we work in. And for the system we work in, Warren Buffett is the best that there is. Yeah, for the system that we work in. That's where he lives. He lives in the little central bank-run ecosystem where the markets are part of that, and according to everybody, nothing is ever going to be able to puncture the cell wall there and get outside of the economic and monetary system as we know it. He exists in there. Out of all the people in that system, he's the best. I will concede that, definitely. But he says, is there anybody you'd rather hear from? I said, yeah. I'd rather hear from Peter Schiff, I'd rather hear from Bill Fleckenstein, or I'd rather hear from Guy Adami. And Brown tweeted back to me, you'd rather hear from Guy Adami than Warren Buffett? And I'm like, yeah, I would, okay? Adami is spry. Adami's critical of central banking. I at least know that he's capable of conceiving that there may be something going on outside of the system as we know it. I've heard Adami articulate criticisms of the central bank before, and I think that shit's important, whether the system goes down or it doesn't. I think that's just important stuff to hear. Again, not an ageism comment, okay? I'm not going after Buffett because of his age, but I know what he's going to say. He's going to say, look for value within that system. Look for a company, you're going to be able to take their stream of future cash flows and dividends and discount it back according to whatever the risk is in interest rates. And the DCF model is going to show you that the company is of value if you want to own it over the long term. I know what he's going to say. I don't know what companies he's going to pick, or what stock screener he's running, but I get the gist, But what's going on now is unprecedented. Printing $12 trillion at a time where we have a true black swan event and the Fed is now trying to paper over a crashing stock market, and you're asking me why I might want to hear from somebody that at least thinks outside the bubble a little bit? He said, you'd rather hear from Guy Adami than Warren Buffett? And I said, any day of the week. And then what happened? Guy Adami went on a rant 3 days later on CNBC that was beautiful, talking about the central banks and talking about, hey, can we talk about some moral hazard here with the amount of money that we're printing, with the stimulus? Can we talk about criticism of the central banks and interest rates and the Fed buying junk bonds? I mean, that's important shit to listen to. I didn't hear any of that shit from Buffett then when he sat down with Becky Quick. He wasn't saying, oh, well, we got to be careful about, inflation. We got to be careful about the amount of money that we're printing. We got to be careful about people's confidence, potentially, in the Fed and in the U.S. dollar. It was never bet against America. I'll be looking for value, the sum of future cash flows. So I know what he's going to say. So to answer his question, yes, I would have rather heard from fucking Guy Adami. All right, you got to understand. If you're in the wealth management world and you are working to basically take people's money and invest them in ETFs and then take a fee off that, I can understand why you would get excited to hear from Buffett. Because you want to know what he's thinking so that you can parrot it back to your clients and say, Buffett said this, Buffett's doing this, and I'm doing this. Or Buffett looked at this industry, or he doesn't like that industry, or whatever. All little things inside of your bubble. All within the cell wall, the cell membrane of the system as it exists today, right? And Peter Schiff and Fleckenstein and Adami, these guys, sometimes they look at things from the outside in. And I need that perspective, especially when shit is going wrong, because I can't reverse in my head, all right? Like I said the other day, buddy of mine who I love to death, one of the smartest people I've ever talked to, great with, his name's Matt Stewart, great analyst, really, really smart guy. I respect him immensely. I always ask for his opinion on things, and I always listen to what he says. Always. Okay? But he said to me, you got to understand, this is all happening within the realm of the ecosystem as we know it. And this is the system that we use. This is the system where our capital markets function. And so this is the system that you have to kind of keep in mind when you look for value or when Buffett looks for value. And in that system, Buffett is the best. And I accept that. Okay? I'm all right with that. If you're one of those wealth managers, you need the system to survive as it is. And you have not, cannot, and will not conceptualize, think about, or embrace the idea of what may happen if the Keynesian